Welcome to the coaches meeting. That's the coach. I'm Grant Cohn. He's a coach. I'm honorary quality control. Kind of the way Kyle Shanahan is honorary quarterback. I'm honorary quality control. If you believe it, you can achieve it. Coach, how are you?
I'm good, Iggy. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. You killed it on the last show.
Stop.
Just sort of educating the Niner fans on who these UDFAs are. There's a new one. A late addition to the crew. It's a very interesting story. Isaiah Winstead, wide receiver. He started off at Toledo and transferred to
ECU.
Why am I forgetting why? ECU, East Carolina. Didn't get signed right away. Put out a video of him basically cooking dudes in practice, one-on-one, some really nice route running. Video went viral. The Niners gave him a call, and now he's going to be at rookie OTAs next week, and we'll see what he's got. He's got a real shot. I think it's a cool story. What do you know about Isaiah Winstead?
I do know that he's put out a lot of production at ECU. ECU's a very strong team. They're one of those teams where they may not make a lot of fanfare as far as national attention, but they're a tough out. They're somebody who you don't want to play. And they have put out a lot of good skill players in like later rounds or undrafted free agency where Isaiah seems to be going. What can I say? It's 2023 and this is the year of going viral, I guess. So he put out a good tweet and got noticed. You can't help but notice that you gotta love that.
Gotta love it.
Notice that he put out some of his best reps. He had some one-handed fades that he caught.
Nice.
But what does that matter to us? He could possibly be. He has a very long road ahead of us, but he would be a slot. He would be in the slot role for us, and be a red zone threat. That's where I see him most helping us. Possibly for the Juwan role that we have in our offense. So in his position, it's almost kind of like he's building the plane in the air, so to speak. He's good, flying by the seat of his pants. And I wish him the best. I don't know where he fits for us. We're going to have to get in camp and get him mixing up with the boys. But it's almost kind of like he fell right in our laps. Another veteran rookie who has a lot of reps under his belt, has a lot of experience. He's seen multiple situations, and he's going to take all of that, and it's going to get condensed into a rookie experience trying to make a veteran team. So I wish him the best.
I feel like it's a good spot for him because at his particular skill set, 6'3", route runner, questionable speed. I don't even know what his 40 is. They list it on Draft Scout as 4.7. But then his family wrote in and said it's 4.5. So whatever. It seems like he has a similar skill set as Juwan Jennings, and not every team would know what to do with Juwan Jennings or would even want Juwan Jennings. The Niners value that skill set, know what to do with it. Only thing I would say to Isaiah if he's watching is the thing that's interesting about Juwan is they identified him as a big guy and a good route runner early, which is what Isaiah is. But Juwan, I believe, got cut. Like Juwan had to prove himself and earn a role through sheer physicality. That's what did it. Blocking. Blocking is essentially what got him on the field, and then it allowed him to earn targets. So if Isaiah is going to take anyone's job or get on the practice squad, he's going to have to go show some physicality in practice because route running is cool, but they'll find other route runners.
Well, yeah, definitely. And you know what it is. Kyle is a receiver. By way of trade, that's what he does.
He's like a big kind of slowish slot receiver too.
Yes,
what I mean? Exactly.
He's very big on guys who get open with their skill, so you could tell that he always has a twinkle in his eyes for those underutilized athletically guys.
This guy
that are bigger. And and
because it's him. That's his experience.
Yes.
He's 6'3".
Yes. And if you look at it, you are right where if you're going to play receiver for the 49ers, you're going to block before you catch. You're going to block before you catch anything here. So
ask Brandon Ayuk, ask Deebo. These guys all have to do it too. You can't be the one guy in the room that doesn't block.
Yeah.
When they all do.
He's got a tough hill to climb, but he's got a lot of production behind him. And I'm just ready to see everybody mix it up. I like the way our wide receiver room is shaping up. Tay Martin is not even being talked about.
Correct. He's been on the team a year now. Let's see what he's got.
So we got a lot of guys. Then we picked up Jadakiss Bonds. So we got a lot of big receivers. So I like how we're priming competition in that room, especially for that spot specifically. I like it.
Yeah, and rookie rookie mini camp, is next week.
Mhm.
And that's fun. It's just for the rookies. Last year, it's always interesting to see who flashes. I believe I saw Dante Pettis sort of alligator arm pass over the middle at rookie mini camp, and I was out at that moment. I was like, not going to work. Not going to work. But Danny Gray, on the other hand, had like a big, long touchdown last year in rookie mini camp, and I was like, oh, okay, he passed the first test, but it didn't necessarily translate to a big rookie year. But I remember it, and it's why I don't write him off. I feel like he might be in the Aaron Banks category of guys who didn't really get a shot, and not the Trey Sermon categories of guys who didn't deserve a shot.
Well, to your point, rookies don't get the opportunity to ease into their role here. You have to show worth right away or get shelved or get gone.
We'll see you next year or you're out.
Yeah. It's either we can shelf you and we'll give you a little bit of time, or you produce right away or you're gone. So I know that for Danny, if he's going to show production, he's got to have a leap with his body. He's going to have a leap with his overall game. And he's going to have to be a little bit more physical because we just don't know. Jadakiss was not signed.
Apparently it was reported that he signed, but that he went on social media and said he hadn't made up his mind yet or didn't sign with them. So maybe that's why the Niners signed. Another reason the Niners signed Isaiah Winstead, sort of a big body wide receiver to replace. Yeah.
So, he's going to have to make a leap because sharks are born swimming here. You know, we don't have a lot of starting positions open here. So you're trying to fill a role more oftentimes than not.
Jada kissed his chance goodbye, says Portillo. It was just as low-hanging fruit. Good one. I liked it. I liked it. All right, let's move on to Braden Willis, the second tight end the Niners drafted. He sort of fell beneath the radar because you're looking at the first tight end they took, Cam Latu, and upon further review of Braden Willis, who didn't test, I mean, we don't really know exactly what kind of athlete he is. When you've watched a little bit more of him, what are you seeing?
Okay, so I goofed, and I am always going to do this. I am subject to change my opinion with new information, right? So I got an actual chance to look at like full games of Braden, and I said that not only did I didn't say he was an average blocker. I kind of made a joke about how bad of a blocker he was. I'm completely wrong. Braden Willis he's a very good blocker. And he's really good near the line of scrimmage in the red zone. He comes, I don't necessarily think that he is as effective as an inline blocker coming off of the line of scrimmage as a traditional tight end. But in that H-back role, coming out of the backfield, coming out of their wishbone sets, he's very effective, and he's physical too. And he delivers a blow. I was wrong about that. And because of seeing that skill set and looking at what he brings, he's 6'2", about 230 to 40 pounds, and he's very fleet of foot. He's quick. I really could see him falling in the fullback H-back role for us. 6'2" is a little bit rich at tight end, but I wouldn't mind him at the H-back or fullback role. And I really do believe that we are, even though we draft for the
hold
Browns,
on. Draft Scout has him at 6'3.5". So there's some dispute there on how tall exactly he is. But he's not as tall as Latu. I think he's at least an inch shorter than Latu.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen him in person yet.
I see a lot more worth than I initially saw from him. I think what jumped out to me at first is the ball skills, because that's what you saw. That's what you see when you first are looking for something special with the guy when you don't have time. And that's what I saw immediately. And I saw how he was used in a lot of the passing sets that he was put in, and he wasn't blocking. And I saw like a lot of like chip blocks, some like low effort things. But after you get a chance to actually put him in a position where he knows he's about to block somebody, where he is putting his hand in the dirt and coming in and fitting hand, hat, and coming in and making contact, he's a vicious blocker. And I think that I could see why we got him. He's not just a finesse guy. I stand corrected.
It was interesting to me, like the Jawan Jennings role in this offense. He's a slot receiver, but I think Tariq Woolen kind of made fun of him on Instagram, called him a tight end, because the Niners kind of do use him as like an F tight end. Like he does so much of that. He almost lines up. He lines up so tight to the formation so often. He blocks a lot. I mean, it seems like maybe Braden Willis could do what Jawan Jennings does from a route running perspective, his route tree, the blocks he's asked to make. And he's what, 30 pounds bigger than Jawan Jennings?
Yeah, I love what we do offensively because we create physicality at different levels of the field where most corners or outside players are not going to get that interior brute force. They're not going to be asked to do the manual laborious tasks physically that interior linemen and linebackers do. And that's what a guy like Jawan Jennings does for us, right? He takes that element of the game and puts it out at the slot. He hunts corners and safeties where I love our offense because we make all 11 football players play football. And you never know when you are going to get your head knocked off. I mean, look at CeeDee Lamb, what Jawan Jennings did to CeeDee Lamb when we played them last year in their place. When he got caught slipping, they had to go meet with the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So
Jawan will do that to you.
Yeah. And
vicious.
And when you have an offense that has a calling card of being the hammer and not the nail, you know, people they don't like it. So call them a tight end all you want. Your ass better look out though.
Exactly. I love that. And that's coming back to Isaiah Winston. Like that is how
you make this team.
Jawan Jennings made not just the team, but like made himself a factor. Like he will kick your butt. He will hurt you if you don't have your head on a swivel. You have to have your head on a swivel against the Niners, not primarily because of him, but a lot because of him. And Braden Willis, if you want to have a spot in this team, you've got to be that kind of guy. Otherwise, they'll just be like your finesse.
Take it a step further, Grant. I mean, look at the type of attitudes that they try to bring into the building. Look at Cameron Latu, like a linebacker turned tight end. You know, like look at
the mentality.
Yes, they want that type of mentality on offense because we are a running football team.
Correct.
So we can't ease up on the run. What are we going to ask nicely to run the ball? No, we got to dictate. You know what I'm saying?
And that goes for Willis too. Like you can't be here as like the soft pass catching option. Like that person doesn't exist on this team. So it's good to hear that he's no. Like even Ross Dwelly, who's supposed to be that guy, like works his butt off at blocking. Works really hard at it, even if he's not great at it. Willis has to as well. It can't be something he's like modestly interested in because Kittle loves it. Latu loves it. And it seems like, you know, this guy does too, which is good because I like the way he catches the ball in traffic. I like the way he gets yards after the catch. And I think it's interesting that if the Niners are looking at Brock as their long-term quarterback, or at least their franchise quarterback for the next few years, getting two tight ends fits him. Like he likes throwing to tight ends. He doesn't really have the arm to take advantage of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith going down the field, but he does have the skill set to take advantage of a couple tight ends. And the Packers did the same thing. They drafted that two tight ends in the top 78 or something, and then they drafted like Brock Purdy 2.0 and that guy from Penn State, the quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, and he's motivated. I mean, I listened to his reaction to, you know, he was disappointed that he got drafted so late, you know, and he actually, just on some background things about him is that he actually made himself into an option for that offense in Oklahoma. He was not looked at as somebody who was going to be focused on, but by way of transferring and transitioning that school, he stepped up and he actually became a leader. So there's a lot to Braden. And, you know, I was wrong. I didn't think that he was as physical as a player as he is, but he's game. He's game.
Hey, respect, Braden, if you're watching. And one thing I want to say, John Lynch mentioned immediately after the draft when asked about Braden, he's like, you know, we say this a lot, but we really had a 5th round grade on Braden. We had no idea he was going to be there that late. We were so happy. 5th round grade on Braden. That's interesting because most people had a 5th round grade on Latu. So I think it's possible that there's really not that much separating them, that they're both good prospects, and that, you know, we'll see which one emerges. They both might. It's interesting.
Oh, this is not going away. You know what it is. I'm Team Latu. You're Team Willis. Let's get it started. You know, my man Latu.
I'm being too hard on Latu because of his speed. I'm just writing him off. I'm sure we could find examples of tight ends who are good and run a 4.78 or slower. So I'm open-minded. Cameron, I'm open-minded. And if you see me, don't punch me in the face. It's more about the team taking you where they did, not who you are. I think you're a terrific young man with a bright future. Don't punch me in the face. Did you ever hear, I didn't read it, but my dad said he read the Mike Tyson autobiography, and that he caught Brad Pitt with his girl at the time. I forget what she was. And Brad Pitt was like, "Whatever you do, Tyson, Mike, just don't punch me in the face." And Mike was like, "We're good.
Was it Robin
We're
Givens?
good." Yes.
Yeah.
She was, I guess, messing around with Brad Pitt. Mike Tyson
Yeah.
caught him, and Brad Pitt was like, "Dude, punch me wherever you want to punch me, just not in the face." And Mike was like, "We're good, man. It's all good." Pretty funny.
I ain't touching Robin Givens, bro.
Okay. Rod Simmons says, not to get off the subject, help me be a realist. Is Trey crap out of luck like Jerry Krause told Phil Jackson, if you go 82-0, you're gone next season? Nah, man, the Niners change their mind at quarterback every 6 months, dude. They change their mind all the time.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So Trey's still here. He's not going anywhere. Let's talk about Deebo Samuel. He's starting to post some workout videos online. Last year, he posted a lot of whining and complaining online about his money. He finally got his money, but then he had kind of a down year. And I called him a double Deebo with cheese, which was just rude. Now, he looks, well, you tell us, man.
Well, I saw some of the training clips, and they're clips. However, he does look in shape. His face looks gaunt. His waist looks tapered. He looks motivated. He looks like, honestly, he looks like camp could start tomorrow. It's just from optics are concerned. That's a far cry away from what we had to put up last offseason, which was tough to stand by and put up with. But
because it was like he thought he was going to work his way into shape, but then he kept getting hurt. It never happened.
Yes, and that's why you have to come in shape, because you can't prepare for what the season is going to give you, right?
No,
you're behind the 8 ball. And one thing that all of us kind of we get a little frustrated, if you will, with how Deebo conducts business at times, is because he is a leader. He's He's the heartbeat of this offense. He's what makes things go.
He's vocal.
He's very vocal.
Demanding.
Yes, and he's who people look to. I mean, I understand that George wants the mic, but the mic belongs to Deebo, right?
That's true. That's true.
So,
and Trent, those two.
Yes, exactly.
Correct.
And they use it judiciously. You know what I'm saying? They're not always pressed to talk to us like some people we know. So all I'm saying is that at this stage of the season in May, before mini camp or before the OTAs start, he looks focused. And to be quite honest, is what all players want. He got his deal, which is 3 years. He looks comfortable, right? Yeah. And that's what you want. A lot of guys that are going through transition with contracts, they're in limbo. They don't know where they're going to go. They're frustrated with their organization, and they're trying to get business conducted while staying professional at the same time. And it's hard to grind as hard as you need to be in shape during an off season when your money's not together. So I feel like he looks satisfied. He looks comfortable. He looks like he's primed for the season. And at this time of the season, we were looking at clips of Deebo, and let's be real, it's just his body type. He holds his weight. He wears it, It's
easy to see.
It's very easy to see. And that's just his body type. That's not, he's being lazy, but when he puts it on, you see it. It's in his face. It's in his ass. You see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So he looks in shape and looks ready to go. And I'm happy for it, because he's a leader and they look for him. He's the spoon that stirs the drink. Like when Deebo's ready to go, it's kind of like the swag is ready to go. It's on.
Yeah.
So I'm happy.
And you brought it up, but like he didn't sign a 6-year extension. He signed a 3-year extension. It kicks in this year. He'll be a free agent again in 2026. And the whole point was that he wanted to be he wanted to get that third contract, wanted to cash in again before he hits 30. Okay, great. So like you're the kind of guy who didn't just get in the league for one big payday. You're in it to be great. You're in it to make, for the long haul, like prove it. Because so far, you've shown that you could be a great player, a Hall of Fame player, but you've only done it really for 1 year. So if you're going to get that next contract at 29 with the way you play, you got to do it again right now. And it seems like he gets it and he's motivated, which is, dude, that's scary for the rest of the league, dude.
And to take
Deebo
it
at his best.
Further, sorry, Grant.
Go ahead.
To take it a step further, like Deebo's play skill, like I know he has to take it personally. Like when you have a guy as versatile as Deebo, there are some people who like to complain. Oh, he's not really a receiver. Oh, he's not really a running back. So he gets to eat. He gets to get the best reps of whatever his skill set is. What is he truly? He doesn't really have to go through the druthers of taking a full load like a running back, and he doesn't
True.
really get pressed out and have to deal with the task of being a full receiver. And
True.
the only way you shut up that criticism
Narrative,
is
yeah.
producing. That narrative is by producing.
Yep.
And if Deebo does, the people who are of that narrative are all saying that Deebo is not going to get a second contract.
Right.
You're not going to be able to maintain what you did 2 years ago and parlay that into another deal. So I'm happy that he's in shape, because he needs to show that wasn't just a one-off. Like, this is something that can be, that even if I regress to the mean, this is something that you can expect out of me on a consistent basis, and I can do it healthy.
Sure, that's the key. Because to me, the way the team is constructed now, he's never gonna produce the way he did in 2021. McCaffrey's here. Like, Ayuk's emerging.
We don't need him.
Kittle's still
anymore.
Here. Yeah, like, you're not just gonna give him, run the whole offense through him. So he could always make that excuse like I did. Like, look, we're a run first team, and there's a lot of mouths to feed. But if he can't stay healthy, he's not going to get a big third contract. And if he doesn't put in the work in the offseason, he's not going to stay healthy. So he seems like he's taking the right steps. And again, that's really scary for the rest of the league, because when he's on and he's the Niners' best player, really hard to beat the 49ers. They're really hard to beat in general.
Yeah.
But when
it's too much to pay attention to him, let alone our entire offense. So he really does kind of set the narrative. You know, if he comes in shape, honestly speaking, if Deebo comes in shape, nobody should be out of shape.
True. And last year, I really felt like every time the Niners gave him the ball, it was almost a favor to the other team, with a few splash plays as the exception. Like, man, I mean, it was either a catch within a few yards of the line of scrimmage, or a run that everyone saw coming, or a drop. Yeah. I mean, his productivity was his efficiency was terrible. The quarterback rating when targeting him was like 70 something, whereas everyone else was through the roof. And it just felt like, man, they're forcing it with Deebo. He's not there. If they don't have to force it this year, and he can just be there all offseason and be in shape, this team, no matter who the freaking quarterback is, should win a lot of games. So,
I remember Decoy Deebo. I remember that.
Yeah.
You know Decoy Samuel. I remember that.
Hell yeah.
So,
and that was all of last year.
He fought through injury and made us proud. You know, he didn't come back 100%. But if you're being an honest broker, him starting the season in shape is imperative. That needs to happen.
I mean, let's talk big picture, right? Like, the Niners have lost back-to-back NFC Championship games. That's where they're at. Both of those games were on the road. They can say that SoFi is Levi's South or whatever, but both of those games were on the road, particularly the second one. It was, I mean, you got obliterated immediately in a hostile environment. So I think it's important to get the number one seed, probably, considering I think the last two number one seeds went to the Super Bowl from the NFC. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're not. And our problems are our own. I keep saying that. Sometimes when we want to feel good about our issues, we'll look at the rest of the league and try to, but we're not. But it's like, no, let's keep the main thing the main thing. Our issue is that we can't get over the hump. That's our issue.
You start slow, you finish fast, but then you're on the road in the NFC Championship game, you lose. Yeah. So start fast.
Yeah.
Deebo, start fast. Christian's on the team now. Like, there's
George.
Just because Brock's not going to be there right away necessarily doesn't mean they can't win some freaking games. Because I remember 2019, they weren't winning games because of their quarterback early in 2019. They were running the ball and playing good defense.
That's a good point. I don't want in the built excuse for us having a slow start is because we don't have the quarterback situation figured out.
Run the ball.
Come on, man.
Run the damn ball.
We need to start the season on point. Seriously. Because that's our calling card. We start slow, then we go on a run, then we have some type of mid-season, midlife crisis where we either trade for a guy or have to switch something up, a la Deebo moving to running back or us going to get Christian.
Don't do that this year.
Don't.
Hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the offense that sucked early last year. Like, they gave up 20 points to Chicago in week 1. They let Dante Pettis score a long touchdown against them. Like, they need to be way more. Remember in 2019 what they did to Jameis Winston and the Bucks in Tampa Bay? Like, Ahkello Witherspoon at a pick six. Yeah, like, you can't do that stuff. Yeah, you can't do that stuff.
That was like 9-7.
Yeah.
Can't have it.
They treated the entire first month like preseason. And that's not how Super Bowl teams conduct themselves. So
Yeah.
Deebo's acting like a Super Bowl player right now. It's good to see. The Super Bowl starts now. The quest for 6 starts in freaking May, not August, not October. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Just Mike says Jordan Reed ran a 4.72 and the measurables were very similar, but Latu is a better blocker off the rip.
Did Jordan Reed really run a 4.7? How did I miss that?
Oh, yeah. Jordan Reed never had.
I'm a Jordan Reed guy. I love Jordan Reed.
He was so good. If he didn't get concussions, he would have been.
He's the Lynn Bias of tight ends. I keep trying to tell everybody.
I see what you mean by that. Yeah, man. He was good. Chris Sims. Kittle needs the ball more this season. Best tight end. Go Niners. Needs the ball more. Getting older, man. I like getting the ball, hitting the ball in the red zone. That was a nice adjustment.
I think George is going to start getting gentlemen's reps. I think that us bringing in all of this youth at tight end is going to start freeing him up to really get out there more in the passing game. He's getting older.
Yeah, he is. I don't even think he's really the blocker he was when he was 25, 26. I feel like his legs are thinner by design because he was getting some lower leg injuries, and his value is as a receiver. I mean, his money-making value.
Yes.
His money-making value. Rod Simmons says, Coach, if you're GM, do you take OC duties from Kyle Shanahan? He loses guys every year. Is it to have Kyle to reboot system alone? OC is a label in SF, not a position.
Yeah,
he does do a lot.
I think I've mentioned that before, but if it was up to me, Kyle wouldn't be OC.
Yeah.
He doesn't
delegate.
In my opinion, it would be best if we had 2 independent bodies operating that, because it would make things a lot more clear on how things are done offensively, and it will put a stronger voice in the room, because you can't, if you don't like what your OC is doing, you're going to have to fire him. So then you're going to get a track record for yourself. So it would force Kyle to be a little bit more political too, which I think it would help him.
Yeah, and I think the question with him is his leadership. And if he were to delegate play calling and just said, I want to be a head coach, I think that would be like, wow. Wouldn't that be hurting us? Wow. Honestly. Yeah. Like Harbaugh does that. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. MGM Production says, any idea if the Niners invited XFL players to camp? I hadn't heard that they did.
No, I hadn't heard it.
I like the idea of Scout. They did that with the AF, whatever.
USFL?
A few years ago. That's where they got Brunskill from, the AAF something.
American Arena Football League?
No, I forget what it was called, but they had one for, someone will tell it. But they got Brunskill from a semi-pro league, essentially. I like scouting players from that. So they got Garcia from freaking Canada.
Well, there's ball players everywhere. Everybody has a different path. I mean, even on the last show, we talked about like 9 different individual stories on how they all came here. I mean, if you think about it, the 6 degrees of separation in football are just amazing. I just watched a highlight play of D. Winters injuring Ronnie Bell when they played Michigan. And
I just watched that too. Dude, D. Winters highlights are so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness.
You think about it, it's like, damn, I just injured my teammate. So who's gonna be?
Oops.
Yeah. So.
I bet you Ronnie Bell walks up to him in the locker room the first time and says, hey, remember that time you knocked me? That really hurt. Thanks.
Stay high. Keep him up.
American Allegiance of Football or something like that. AAF. That was what it was. The American, I think it existed for like 10 games. I don't know. All right. So we keep talking about why they didn't draft an offensive tackle. How do you not take an offensive tackle? It's your biggest need. You're just going to give the job to McGlinchey's backup? Really? Right. And there's like a million different reasons and motivations. Me and my dad went like full psychological. Like, what does it say about Kyle's deep down nature? I think there's probably a financial reason here.
Yeah.
Can you explain that? Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about this because, all right. So yes, drafting who we did at 3 in this year's draft was a bit rich, right? However, and there was an immediate need, right? And I remember us going back and forth where I couldn't really articulate how on a team like us, you cannot draft somebody in the 3rd round if you really don't think that they're going to be a contributor, right? And if we're parsing out our track in what we did at right tackle is we went the traditional route. We drafted a top 10 pick. We brought him in, and he wasn't exactly what we expected him to be. But also, and what hurts you is what we see on the field, which is production. We see the pass play and all of that. But what really sucks is it kills our bottom line because he's locked into a certain price point where he's got to get paid less than what he's producing at. And I think that the Niners are a little bit shell shocked from that endeavor with dealing with Mike. Not only that, but he's not producing to the money that he's being paid. And then when you've coached him up just enough for him to be adequate, he goes and hits the market for more money than he's worth or you can afford anyway. That had to suck. And if I'm a money guy, that had to suck having to stomach that. And in my mind, if we're looking at the draft and we're saying to ourselves, man, why would we go and get somebody that we know we're not going to get starting potential out of in this round, but we're going to have to pay him once we coach him up. And then we're going to have to fight him in the market once he gets out the free agency versus
and we'll be disappointed with him the entire time.
And then we got to smile through it the whole time, right?
Hey, he got thrown on his back twice in this game, but we didn't lose. Like, it's not that big of a deal. We still like him.
Yeah, and I think that they went through that. And then on top of it, the player had a hard time ingesting how he was being scrutinized. So then I feel like they had to really wrap their arm around him. And
why are people – I think the media is taking shots at him like, okay.
No, they're not.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? People are just saying what they see.
Real life. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And, sometimes it breaks through and you feel it because you know it's true. So I feel like in certain ways, the Niners had to say to themselves, all right, if we're going to reach, why don't we reach on a guy and a position that's manageable? Something that we can control down the line. So if Latu pops, right, what we
still
expect
not expensive. To be,
he's
still
affordable.
Not expensive.
Right?
Same with Moody. Same with Moody. We can get rid of him. But if he could be the best kicker in the freaking league, still affordable.
Exactly.
Still
we
affordable.
Can afford him. But if we draft this
same with safety too. Safety, tight end, kicker. 3 affordable positions in round 3. That's very interesting.
And if you think about what they did at right tackle, very affordable. Undrafted free agent. I mean, signed him for a song. You know what I mean?
Joey Fisher. Joey Fisher. Yep.
So I think it was $135K. So So look,
I'm sure the long snapper Tabor Pepper has more money guaranteed coming his way than Joey Fisher. Yeah.
So from a talent standpoint, I feel like we're betting on ourselves. We're betting on our building, what's inside of our building to get these guys ready, Coach Forrester, and to coach up what we need. But I also kind of feel like, we're kind of, antique shopping. We're kind of like thrifting. Right. Let's kind of repurpose this. We don't got to pay full price for this down the road when we can repurpose it here. And
it's like you already tried to get the premier right tackle. Did McGlinchey checked every box that they could possibly want from a right? I mean, he was top 10 pick. You took him with the 9th pick, you took him over Derwin James and Minkah Fitzpatrick and all these guys. He's what you wanted. He ended up getting a huge contract from another team, but it didn't work out. He was a massive disappointment. He wasn't worth the draft slot. He wasn't worth your time or your money. So what do? Oh, since we've been working around a stiff at right tackle for 4 or 5 years anyway, we'll just get another. I'm not going to call Colt McKivitz a stiff, but we'll take the stiff's backup, pay him nothing, and feel like
he's affordable.
At least he's affordable. At least he's affordable. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. And I feel like they did that at this position with that in mind. I mean, it would have been on my mind if I had to stomach all of that. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's like having a woman, you know what I'm saying? Having somebody you date, she ain't worth it. And then she cheats on you and gets with somebody better. You're like, Jesus Christ, I gave you the shot. What do you think? Like,
damn.
And you went off and got something better than me. Ain't this some shit?
So let me ask you a question. Do you think this is the Niners' new strategy? Like, look, we can't afford 2 high-paid offensive linemen. We tried to take an offensive lineman in the first round. That didn't work out. Let's just go as cheap as possible at right tackle for the foreseeable future. So if McKivitz plays well for a year, go get money elsewhere. We got Nick Sakel waiting, or Joey Fisher waiting in the wings.
Well, so it's in theory, it sounds, you can say that it's nice as a theory and say that you did it on purpose. I think the Niners are really good at that, claiming ideas that kind of fall into their favor.
We've been planning this for 4 years. No, it's been something you've been doing for 3 weeks.
Exactly. I think it's a plan of necessity. They have to do it. And a part of it is by way of success. They drafted so well. We don't have as many players as we do on one roster if we don't draft some of these guys. We just can't acquire all of these guys. Their money, you have to look at it like this. If we have a team that develops as many players as we do, then you have to get over the fact that we have a lot of players that are underpaid. You have to understand that. And sooner or later, when it's time for them to get paid, they're either going to get paid here or they're going to leave. That's what it is. That's what happens when you develop a player. On the bright side, it's, oh man, look at how much development we're getting over for what we got for him. But on the back end, that bill is running, and they know that it's time for me to get paid.
I have a theory. I love this topic. I just feel like the right tackle position is similar to the quarterback position in the 49ers' minds in this sense.
Okay.
Mediocre right tackles get paid way more than they should. Mediocre quarterbacks get paid way more than they should. Weren't McGlinchey and Jimmy kind of similar?
True.
Everyone said they're not as bad as they say. Look at how much money they make. They're going to get rewarded. And they were all, that was all true, but it's like they're mediocre and you should not be spending that much money. So it's like, hey, you know, if we've been winning with mediocre quarterback play and mediocre right tackle play the last 4 years, let's just not pay for it. Let's just get rid of Jimmy and bring in Brock. And it's like, hey, he's a little bit better or whatever. And it's way cheaper. Let's get rid of Mike and promote Colton and be like, 6'1", half dozen the other. He's way cheaper. Who cares? Maybe that's how they're feeling, man.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, but I don't agree. And the reason why I don't agree with you is you don't purposely put somebody mediocre at a spot. You want to put the best guy there. It's
true.
Right?
It's true.
I feel
it's just that the Niners kind of suck at drafting and developing quarterbacks and offensive linemen.
All right. Yeah. So,
but yeah.
I'll say this. I just think the Mike McGlinchey experience taught them that we tried to push the easy button with a pick and just get a guy in there who we thought could just get it done. And that bit us. Yeah. So let's go with what we know. Let's develop. I mean, if you think about it, who on this roster gave us instant production? Like they didn't have to be developed. They were just plug and play. Who was plug and play here? Maybe Nick? Maybe?
Yeah.
Nick was plug and play. Everybody else, if you think about it.
They tried to pretend that McGlinchey was, but.
No. If you think about all of the draft picks, everybody had to be in some way, shape, or form developed. They had to be brought into a certain level, and they played their way. So
Fred Warner and Kittle played right away on bad teams, but they were not nearly what they are today. No.
They
were not really impact players.
George and Fred played in an atmosphere that Trey should have been in.
Right. The team that was sort of, getting its feet underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You use an interesting phrase, burning the boats, why it's necessary in certain cases and why the Niners are reluctant to do it. Explain what you mean in a football sense, why that's important to burn the boats.
Well, it's about buying in. It's about understanding that you can get paralysis by analysis when the bullets are flying. And it's important for you to flip the switch and have a mentality so you're not gun shy in those moments. Right. So that's what burning the boats is. When you're about to go on an endeavor, shut the door behind you.
Correct.
Don't figure out a way out of it. Don't build contingencies.
Don't be half in, half out.
Half out. Don't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And I feel like that is what ends up to come and get us in the end of the season when our demons really show themselves, where we can't get over the hump at the end of the year. And it's because we did not burn the boats. And what I mean by that is with quarterback, I feel like we are primed for a huge gaggle. You know what? If we go back and forth with this musical chairs saga that we have at quarterback, I think that if whoever makes it out of camp as the week 1 starter should be the starter. I think that if Trey, for all intents and purposes, for what Trey has been through, it still is the NFL and he's still a pro. And I wouldn't be a fan of him if I felt like he got the job.
Real quick, I want to the burning the boats thing, like last year, you made Trey the starter, but Jimmy's right there on the other field hanging out just in case. Like, that's the very definition of not burning your boats. Then when you use him the way you use him and he gets injured, everyone wonders, well, did you do that because you had your boat ashore right there and you knew, well, I can be a little reckless here because I don't even know if I'm really committed to doing this. Oh, great. Now we got 49ers football.
Yeah.
Chilling on the dock.
Yeah, I mean, and to take it a step further, I know that there's people right now probably screaming, well, when Trey went down, we would have never had Jimmy if Jimmy wasn't there. Well, what happened? What happened ultimately anyway? Jimmy got hurt again, right?
And Brock stepped up, which was like the greatest thing that's ever happened to the organization since Jeff Garcia came out of nowhere.
And we didn't look at that as an aberration, as of like, Jesus Christ, we got freaking lucky. What do? We poked our chest out and act like we were supposed to do it. That's what we meant to happen.
Right. And real quick, if they had burned their boats with Jimmy Garoppolo last year, they would have known what they had in Brock Purdy week 3 instead of week 13.
Because they would have had to elevate him. They would have had
to elevate him
too.
That's the benefit of burning your boats.
Yes. If they would have burned their boats quick and matter of fact, if they would have burned their boats for real, Jimmy would have been gone before his shoulder surgery while they were sitting there trying to find the best deal possible. Right.
Correct.
And those are all of the circumstances that we're talking about. I can see, like, if we go at the very end and look at the whole story and we can say, yeah, but we create so many opportunities for ourselves to take us to the end of that season. Really? Mm-hmm. Really? Are those the opportunities that are taking us to the end of the season? Or are they taking us to our inevitable demise on what we do? Because think about it. Who do we lose to? We lose to teams that burn their boats. They bought into their situations. Look at what the Eagles did with Carson Wentz.
Right.
Okay? Yep. They gave Carson Wentz that deal, and then what did they do? They went and got Jalen Hurts immediately and put the pressure on him. And when they got rid of Carson Wentz, they didn't pussyfoot around. They didn't listen to the locker room and hold a tribunal to see how the team felt. They got rid of him. All right? And then they went hardcore on Jalen Hurts. And I just feel like at times we get caught being a little too cool for school. We think that we're the smartest guys in the room. And it hurts us when everybody's too busy working their plan while we're too busy trying to have the best options possible.
And they're hedging. It's like they're building for the future while being all in at the same time. So when they lose in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago to the Rams, they can say, well, we're ahead of schedule. We didn't even have Trey on the field. That was with Jimmy. Imagine us next year with the quarterback we want. And then the next year, they lose in the NFC Championship with Brock, and they're like, well, Brock just getting started. Brock got hurt. We're ahead of schedule. We're still coming. Like, no, eventually you're going to miss it. Yeah. You're going to miss it. And it's like you keep having this mentality of like, we're a year away. We're a year away. Eventually, you're not. It's got to be your year at some time. You can't have that mentality forever.
Do you really want to end the conversation, or do you like having it? Ending the conversation would be winning the Super Bowl. But having the conversation would be talking about just how much we win and how close we are. And look at our window. And the best team, one of the best.
And the awful bad luck that they have. It's just so weird. Injuries and Yeah,
and it's kind of like, I mean, what are we going to be? The 21-year-old kid still hanging around the high school parking lot? Like, what are we doing?
I would have won state. I would have won state, man. Coach put me in. No doubt in my mind. I would have won state.
Hey, man, if they wouldn't have held us 2 years ago, I would have brought it home for us. Like, what are we doing? Are we in the conversation, or are we ending it? You see what I'm saying? So I feel like, you look at teams who, even with the Rams, I despise the Rams, but they burned their boats, man. Look what they did for that ring. Look what they did to close out that season. And it's
they get credit for that. And meanwhile, Niner fans are like, ha, you guys suck now. It's like, whoa, they're champions.
Yeah.
Can't take that ring off of McVay's finger ever.
Yeah.
That's what he has that Kyle doesn't have.
Yeah. So I feel like there is a narrative of us having a good time being at the party, just being in the room. Right. And I feel like Niners fans, they feel a little good when it's just where they are. The Niners are in the hunt. They're the top of the NFC. Guys,
the most physical NFC team in the league. Sucks. No one wants to face the Niners. Everyone loses after you face the Niners.
But we got to be honest, guys. We're at the top of a division that sucks. The NFC is not as good as the AFC. There's much more competition outside of our league. And it's easier for us to be at the top of the hill when we have the veterans and the stuff that we have. So I just kind of feel like we need to start really dedicating ourselves to pushing to get the real goal, which is
Right.
a Super Bowl. You know,
and you said what you said earlier is like whoever starts should be the starting quarterback. If it's Sam Darnold, it's Sam Darnold. If it's Trey Lance, it's Trey Lance. If they decide that Brock Purdy's their franchise quarterback, then Trey needs to go eventually. He's just a distraction at a certain point. They haven't gotten to that point yet, but that's the whole burning, like to look forward. That's the whole point of burning the boats. Eventually, you got to pick one.
I agree with you 100%. And honestly, what we've done with Trey and the time that we put into him, Grant, if Trey has one game that looks like anything Brock Purdy has given us, they will everybody will want him to start because that's what we were originally here for. That's what we came for.
Correct.
All right. So
correct. I want to use the burning the boats analogy one more time. When they should have burned the boats with Jimmy Garoppolo was when he got injured in Tennessee. When he got injured in Tennessee and lost, and John Lynch liked that tweet of him getting left on, off the team playing. That was it. It was over. And then Trey Lance comes in and wins a must-win game. That was the time.
They should have kept playing Trey. I think Trey.
They should have kept playing Trey.
But
not against the Texans. He was good.
No, not against the Texans. He
was good. He won.
You're right.
They took him out. Jimmy was still hurt, and then Jimmy won a few games, but he didn't win the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl, which means in retrospect, it was a waste of time. It should have been Trey. Jimmy was hurt. Jimmy was done.
It's not fair to look in hindsight, but we're human, and that is true. There were. I don't think that the Niners were necessarily focused on when to insert Trey. I just think that they were scared. They were scared shitless that they had to put him out there. They weren't necessarily looking to keep him out there. But if you're looking at those instances, yes, there were gaps in his career where you could have burned it and said, "Hey, he's our guy. Jimmy's gone, and we're going to ride out with this."
You've already like humiliated him with that tweet. We don't want you on the team plane anymore from the GM. Like, it's over. He's hurt. Trey just won. He's your future. That's the time. And to your point, they never actually did that. They only they've only done it for Brock.
Is looking at us like we operate like the rest of the NFL world doesn't see us. Like the GM likes a tweet about the quarterback. It's like any other organization. It's like, well, that's clear, man. That's a line in the sand.
It's over. It's over right now. And then you bring him back another, not just giving him the starting job after the win from Trey, but bringing him back another year so that Jimmy could now humiliate Kyle and say, your plays freaking suck, man, and smirk on the sideline when you're losing. I mean, who could have seen that coming? Oh, anyone who sort of understands human dynamics.
Yeah, I think that they see an opportunity where they may have to get into general population and risk it just like everybody else. And they shudder, right? They see those moments where it's like, oh my God, we may have to be a real franchise and just have our ass out in the wind. We may have to just ride out with our quarterback. It's like, no, we've got it under control. What we're going to do is keep this guy on the side, then play him, and then listen to our quarterback.
And it doesn't mean we don't like Trey. It doesn't mean we don't like Trey.
And it has nothing to do with how we feel about our quarterback. It's like, yeah, bro, it does.
It absolutely does. You're
not moving like everybody else. It does.
Mike Rhea says we're the Bills of the 90s without the quarterback and right tackle. That's true, man. And you compare the Niners to those Bills teams, they had a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
But I feel like those Bills teams get way too much love in Canton. Like, they ultimately accomplish nothing. Why is their head coach in the Hall of Fame? Why?
Well, dude, first of all, we get a lot of accomplishments and love, and we didn't even make it to the Super Bowl but once. They went 4 times. All right. The real hate that the Bills get is that they held a parade. They held a parade in Niagara Falls Park in Buffalo for the kicker, and they lost the damn game, which is not a good look. But I feel like the Niners, we need to just really be focused on ourselves, and really just see a plan all the way through. I get the feeling that they think that they get points when they give us all of these options off of plans. Like, no, you don't get points. You look more confused. You don't have it down pat.
Pick one plan and stick to it. Commit to it. And that was the thing. When they traded up for Trey Lance, it was like, oh my God, what an aggressive play. Kyle really going all in with the quarterback. It's like, this is going to work. This is what we've been waiting for Kyle to do. Tell me which quarterback you want. Because you said you wanted Hoyer. You said you wanted Beathard. You said you wanted Cousins. You never really wanted Jimmy. Who do you want, man? Oh, you want Trey. Great. And then at the moment he stepped in the building, it was everyone, Kyle down was like, well, we still like Jimmy. This doesn't mean we don't like Jimmy anymore. It's like, what are you talking about? Of course it means you don't like Jimmy anymore.
I just feel like all of the information that we get is like for the locker room. It's not for us.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why Trey Lance didn't start week 18, because even though it was the right thing to do for the franchise, present and future, we know who makes those decisions on this team. And that was never going to happen. They're never going to allow it.
Not happening. Yeah.
Not happening.
They'll kick and scream.
All right. Speaking of culture and leadership and all that, I think it'd be fun to talk about the biggest difference between Jim Harbaugh and Kyle Shanahan, because they're the two most successful 49ers head coaches in the last 10, 15 years. Both have gone to the Super Bowl and lost. Both have gone to multiple NFC championship games. Essentially, their resumes are quite similar, except for Harbaugh took over a team that was talented and mismanaged, and Kyle took over scorched earth and built it himself. But they've sort of come to a similar point and have been unable to get over the hump, so to speak. But they're very different head coaches. Yeah. How would you characterize the biggest difference between them?
Well, I'd say Jim is a little bit more hands-on than Kyle is from a leadership level, not a player to coach level. I believe they're equally as tapped in with their players as one another. But I do believe that Coach Harbaugh, let me show respect first. I believe that Coach Harbaugh.
You can call Kyle all day, but that's Coach Harbaugh.
I believe that Coach Harbaugh he comes with a very he's first of all, he's older than Kyle, so he has a better not a better background, but a more enriched background. Yes. I mean, Coach Harbaugh was the shit in the NFL at quarterback. He was nice.
First round pick. First round pick.
He wasn't like some ancillary like Rudy guy. Like, no, he came in and won games, so one of the things about Coach Harbaugh that I've seen with him is that he was a
Pro Bowler in 1995. He started 140 games in the NFL. I mean, he started 5 playoff games. I mean, I think he went to
the
AFC champion. He went to the AFC Championship in 95.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I would argue to see if he's one of the most successful, most decorated coaches that's played. Like, yes. So yes. For Coach Harbaugh, I see that he's a lot more mature. He's a man's man. He's rubbed up against a lot of different generations. Yes. So Coach Harbaugh has not only players that Kyle looks up to as father figures, but Coach Harbaugh has players that he looks at as brothers that Kyle may look up to as uncles. Like, he's just older.
And he doesn't have that insecurity of like, why am I here? Like, I was in the NFL. I was a first round pick. I was a quarterback. You know who the hell I am. And I won in college. Yeah. I mean, everyone knows why he's there. He doesn't have to justify that. Kyle, it's like, well, why are you here? You didn't even play much in college. It's like, oh, your dad was a coach. Oh, your dad was a coach. So he has to overcome that the way I do. And I get that. It's a whole different thing. Like, I didn't play football. My dad covered football. Like, it's a whole different thing. So that's where Kyle's coming from.
And I see from Kyle is that Jim is a lot more comfortable in his skin when it comes to just the football game and being around the media than Kyle is. I've seen over the years where your dad and other people have gone at Jim and asked him very tough and hard questions. And
he loves it.
He welcomes the conversation.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference when somebody just has the right answer or they know. But no, Coach Harbaugh actually welcomes the conversation to see it through. It takes and when you see that with somebody who's able to take confrontations and turn them into conversations, I think that's a skill.
Leadership.
Yeah, it's very disarming. And that's one thing that
Robert Saleh can do that.
That's something that I wish Kyle would learn how to do. He doesn't know how to disarm people. He does.
John Lynch can do that.
Yes, because he's so defensive that
Yeah.
he never gets a chance to work on the people that are around him.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing that I see from Kyle, is that there are times where Kyle doesn't make you feel a part of the experience. He kind of makes you feel like you're on the outskirts of his orbit. You never
Right.
really feel like you're having a one-on-one conversation with him unless you're talking about something that's favorable to him,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And with that, one of the things that's beautiful about being able to bring on confrontation is that you get to show layers of yourself without being so forceful about it. People get to see you work through problems and roll up your sleeves, and you know how to work through issues. And once some of those things are emblematic of, let's be honest, you're a head coach, so you're always being watched,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of covert things that happen inside of your organization. So when you do speak, people glean a lot from your words and how you speak to people. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, if he can't handle this conversation, I wonder how he's doing that behind closed doors. I wonder how
Yeah.
he's talking to other players. So that is the differences that I see between Jim and Kyle.
Yeah, and I feel like Kyle, like those differences put Kyle at a deficit that makes it tough for him to be a leader. Because again, like, why are you here? Oh, because your dad was Mike Shanahan. So for him to work against that, and he's been doing it for 15 years, he has to establish two things. One, he's a genius. Like, his background in the sport allows him to get you paid. Like, I know so much, I can get you open, I'm gonna get you paid. So he's a genius, can get you paid. And two, he's your friend. He's Kyle. Like, hey man, like I just want to get you money. I just want to kick it with you. Like,
paid, bro.
I want to get you paid. Like, hey, but like, I'm not
That's
yelling at you. I'm not.
Slope, Grant.
It's a slippery slope. So, and it works for him, but it gets in the way of him being a leader. Whereas Jim just has to be himself, because he walks in a room and it's Jim Harbaugh, the former quarterback, the guy who was the coach of the Niners and Stanford, and it's like he just has to be his quirky self, wearing those Dockers. He can be as weird as he wants, and it all works. But Kyle has to be cool. He's got to wear the right shoes. He's got to be. It's different. And so all of it leads to him not being a leader still. But he's a successful coach in a lot of ways. But I think that's the big difference. Like, Harbaugh can't not be a leader. He can't not be a leader.
It's in his DNA.
Kyle, it's in his DNA. I don't think that Kyle can be, but he works around it in a lot of interesting ways. I mean, his defensive coordinator is always just an A+ leader, from Solid to D'Amico to Wilkes. So he may have the self-awareness to work around it, but at the same time, you're the head coach.
I agree with you, Grant. And this harkens back to something that I brought up last time, is that being a leader is an act of service. And that's something that I do pick up from Coach Harbaugh. Coach Harbaugh gives me a vibe that you could catch him cleaning up the media room after a session if he saw something spilt on the ground, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you catch Coach Harbaugh bringing,
or he would talk to someone about it, like, hey, we're not doing this.
We're not yet.
We have a standard. Yeah, we're not doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, if you want to put it in a nutshell, which is very unfair, I feel like Kyle's players are in service of him, and Jim is in service of his players.
Sure. I think that's the way to put it.
And that's the biggest difference that I see between the two. I feel like when all else fails on Kyle's side, we're strapped to one man in a system. That's not a living and breathing thing, right? Yeah. So, but in Jim's world, if something is wrong, then there's people, there's a heartbeat behind that. You can fix that. You can talk to somebody about that. Whereas when you're trying to get to the heartbeat on Kyle's side, there's resistance, because he wants to keep you in the binary side of it, of, whoa, the route wasn't ran the right way, or the pass was this way, or the drop back wasn't the right way. I
can't be wrong.
Yeah. And he gets into this binary static environment where there's no feel, there's no context, and you can't really get to him and say, but Kyle, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is your 7th round quarterback who's a rookie, who you use the backup tight end to block. Right. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the missed block or the formation. I'm talking about, why didn't you recognize that just from the minutia of how your team is running right now?
And a leader who is there to be in service of his players falls in a sword. That was on me. Don't blame Tyler. It's Tyler Kroft. He was inactive last week. He's a tight end. Yeah. Blame me. That's what a real leader does. Even if you don't even believe it, blame me publicly.
I think in certain ways, when you hear that from Kyle, I think that's what he thinks that being a professional coach is, and it's not.
Keeping it real.
Yeah, it's like, oh nah, well, he it's like, no, you're missing. This is a blind spot. You're missing it right now.
You're talking like an offensive coordinator. I think what's interesting about Harbaugh, this comparison is, to be fair to Kyle, Harbaugh hasn't accomplished anything Kyle hasn't accomplished. Neither of these men have rings at any level. They are both on the quest for a ring, and they've both come very close. Like Harbaugh was in the Final Four this year. Both in the Final Four this year. Well, and they've been in the Final Four a lot, these two guys. So I think what's interesting is they're offensive guys that always have great defenses.
Right.
And what Kyle has over Jim is a scheme. Like, I think everyone would say that Kyle's scheme, Jim doesn't even have a scheme. It's whoever his offensive coordinator is that year. It could be Greg Roman or whoever. But Jim has like a leadership and a cohesiveness with his team that just Kyle doesn't have. I think that's the trade-off. Scheme for leadership, straight up. What's more important?
I mean, our locker room runs this team, and if we're being fair, we're talking about currently Jim and Kyle. Jim runs a college locker room. Those are not men.
No.
This is a pro locker. These are men.
That's true.
They get to it differently. So we have to say that too. Yeah. Right? Those are 18.
Yeah, Harbaugh's style might not work long term in the NFL the way Kyle's laid back style does.
Exactly. So, and you know what? And that may be a feather in Kyle's hat, where Jim's voice and his message may have grown stale.
Or it's just abrasive, like, every day. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Been way too much for the NFL. So maybe we're not looking at the fact that Kyle's style is built for the long haul. It's built for consistency, right?
Because for a while, I mean, Harbaugh had to leave every place he went after like 3-4 years. Every freaking place. I'm amazed he's lasted Michigan this long. I heard he doesn't even talk to the AD over there. It's like, wow, I guess they found some type of understanding.
It's tribal.
So I'm not. So what's interesting about this? I'm not saying that Harbaugh's a better coach than Kyle because there's no evidence to point to that. But they are different. They are different. Yeah.
This isn't better or worse. This is either or.
Absolutely. All day, every day, Kim says, I remember all the so-called experts said whichever quarterback lands in Frisco, Texas, would be the best situation. That's been completely false if you ask Trey and most fans. Agree? Best situation, except you have no time to learn. You got to be ready as soon as you hit the ground running because the backup might be. And if he is and you're not, you're out.
Right.
That's what happens.
It's laid out in simple, plain text. You know, they propped it up like he would have time. He didn't get time.
Nope.
And now they want Brock to be the guy off of a little time. That should show you right there.
Yeah. Zero patience. And what's funny is the whole thing with drafting Trey is they said, well, you got to be patient with him. And the thing with Anthony Richardson, you got to be patient with him. The Niners were not patient at all. They should know that about themselves. They're not patient.
In some ways, if you're looking at it, they're not being patient with Brock.
No. Get your butt back here as soon as you're ready because we've decided that you'll be ready.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
We've made the decision when you're going to be healthy.
That's another thing Harbaugh would never do.
No.
Harbaugh was very sensitive about that. You know why? Because he was a player. He played the game at the highest level. Josh Wyatt says, Coach, can you speak to the narrative that any quarterback would succeed in Kyle's system? I see no evidence for that. Seems like a Jedi mind trick to blame the quarterback whenever Kyle's offense fails.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think that the quarterback is just another vestige. It's just another vestige of Kyle. If you look at it, there's been a lot of quarterbacks in this system that have failed. Brian Greasy did not do good in this offense. Robert Griffin III did not do good in this offense. Donovan McNabb came over and did not do good in this offense. The guys who have actually done well is like maybe Matt Schaub. He had like one of the best years of his career, and Matt Ryan had his MVP year.
But he was already a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, he was probably the poster child, but he wasn't developed in this system. He was already ready to go. So if you honestly think about it, they say that it's quarterback friendly, but how friendly is it to the quarterback if it's up to him to be the point guard? He's got to find everybody. So
right, and you're talking about succeeding. Like Jimmy got jettisoned out of town. Like, did Jimmy succeed? You could point to whatever numbers and record that you want, but it seems a lot like the stats and the record are sort of a reflection of other things. It seems like
Jimmy. I know Jimmy was 8 years in when he got here, but There's nothing about Jimmy's game that seemed like Kyle-less specific after 4 or 5 years here. Like, oh, he picked that up from this offense. Like, Jimmy came in with the quick release. He came in with, as a matter of fact, one could say that athletically and less than experience, Jimmy's probably coming out of San Fran a worse quarterback than he was.
Yeah, it was a successful experience for him. I mean, he got hurt all the time. He never played well in the playoffs. I don't know that he got ran out of town for a guy who makes like $900K a year.
And it took 2 years to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Was Nick Mullins successful here? Like,
no.
What's he doing now?
No.
I mean, you can put up some numbers.
I feel like saying that this is the most quarterback-friendly offense is like, I feel like that's a dog whistle for saying, I don't know how they get so many open guys. Like, they just don't understand.
Yeah. And that's fine. Like, Kyle's good at getting open guys because he's all about play action and these specialty plays. But, like, you don't win championships based on trick plays where you get guys wide open. Like, you win championships based on matchups. Mm-hmm. Having a sound offense and understanding matchups. And when you put Tyler Kroft against Hassan Reddick and say that's a sound matchup for us, we're not getting our freaking butts kicked in this matchup, I mean, you're not going to win that game because it's a game of matchups. It's not a game of wide open receivers. That's college.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, you know, look at some of the games that we've had. I mean, even the game against Dallas where we put the nail in the coffin. Kyle didn't scheme that up. Deebo looked Kyle dead in his face and said, "Give me the ball."
Oh yeah, 2 years ago, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Stop messing around.
That's and I need for us to understand this. That's real football. Like, I understand that we're going through the paces of the camp and all of this nice stuff. But at the end of the day, real football is the guy coming to his coach and saying, "Give me the ball.
Get out of the way.
Give me the ball.
Get out of the way. Like, I'm the man."
Yeah,
not you.
And on defense, looking at Fred Warner or whoever saying, "Yo, we need to stop.
Yeah,
we need to stop."
It's a battle. It's a will. It's a willpower thing here now.
Yeah.
Josh Wyatt says, if we reject that narrative, doesn't that mean we have to credit Brock for the success he had as if he had put up those numbers on any other team? So we're going to ignore all of his weapons and his defense.
Look, man, Brock is a great kid. Brock deserves the attention that he's getting, right? But Brock played 8 games. All right. And he played 8 games on a team that was hot and already playing well. And through those 8 games, he got hurt twice. All right.
Also, our thing with Jimmy, like for years, was, look, I don't care what his stats are. I don't care what his win-loss record is. Trust your eyes. That's what we said for 5 years, because the stats are very much a reflection of the scheme and the players. And the win-loss record is very much a reflection of the defense. Like, use your eyes. Is he a good quarterback? Is he helping them win games, or is he making it harder? We could see it. The Niners saw it. He's gone. And
it was taking way too much to win with Jimmy. It was taking way too much.
So now we look at Brock. Yeah, great numbers. Jimmy had great numbers last year with Christian McCaffrey. Great win-loss record. Yeah, Jimmy had great win-loss record. Trust your eyes. What do you see? Well, I see a guy who was the last pick in the draft who has more to prove. I love the way he moves around. I love his poise and confidence, but I got way more I need to see. He has way more to prove. Trust your eyes.
You can't make him the guy off 8 games. That's just malfeasance. That is
Trust your eyes. And he says it would have put up the same numbers on any other team. Obviously not. Like, if you would put him on the Panthers last year, he wouldn't have been putting up these numbers. No, and neither would Jimmy.
To say that Brock, I'm sorry, Grant, but to say that Brock would have did this on any other team is disrespecting our team.
Pretty much. Yeah. Niner Empire DMV says, I feel like Kyle in big games like the NFC Championship game versus the Eagles or Super Bowl, he outthinks himself when he tries to adjust. I felt he was outthinking himself against the Cowboys too, and a bunch of the players had to go up to him and be like, hey, man, we're better than them. Can we just line up and run the ball? I was sitting next to Patrick Willis. I was sitting next to Patrick Willis in the press box in the second quarter. So innocent. He turns to me and he says, why aren't they just imposing their will on them? He said that. Why aren't they just imposing their will on them? And I was like, damn, Patrick, that's a great question. What's a great question? And then they did.
Yeah.
And it takes players to be like, hey, coach, I'm Patrick Willis, man. It's not that hard. We're better than them, and I know it.
And then if you really think about it, that game would have been much different if Tony Pollard doesn't get hurt.
Oh, my God. You know why the Cowboys have Tony Pollard? Because the Niners drafted Mitch Wishnowsky ahead of him. That's why you don't take kickers and punters in rounds 3 and 4, because there's gonna be a guy 10 picks later who's really good that you missed.
I just believe that he for as good as our team is, for much as we utilize it, I just feel like, the day that Kyle doesn't want credit is the day we'll see what this team is really about.
I love it. That is the journey of maturity he needs to make. Corey Soto says, hell yeah. Corey Soto says, I wouldn't frame it as Kyle Shanahan versus JH. I think it's important to consider the era and generations they coached in. I think Jim Harbaugh's style worked in the NFL of yesteryear. Macho. KS may be better suited today. Possible. We did touch on that. Like there is an abrasiveness with Jim Harbaugh that like college players can't do anything about it. Like it's an experience. It's like boot camp. You got to do it, and then you're done after 3-4 years. You're done. Could you take 6 years of Jim Harbaugh if you didn't? If you were making more than him,
it's hard to take that when you make as much or more than your coach.
Yeah. Fish and Chip says the sideline prowler is high school level. Ooh, Fish and Chips doesn't like Kyle. I think the thing about Kyle that makes him interesting is that he's obviously better than high school level. He's flawed. He's not bad. Like Nathaniel Hackett is bad. This guy's flawed.
Yeah.
Like Harbaugh.
We're all flawed.
Yeah.
Right? So saying flawed is such a
he's human.
Like a stain. Yeah, he's
human. He's
right?
human.
And because we see him on a regular basis, we're familiar. Right? And when you get familiar, you start just noticing.
And since we talk about him every day, we're like, man, it's been 2,000 days and you still haven't matured. Come on. We're waiting.
Bro, I can't wait for somebody to ask Kyle a gotcha question and he just like suns them. Just like completely just like gives them a smirk like, nice try. Anyway, so what we're going to do is move on. Like, I would just love that. Like, he takes the bait all the time. Like, just don't take the bait.
Yes, because that would show the maturity he needs to have. The biggest thing working against him, and it's one of the things I think that makes him relatable. He's like the 25-year-old, 43-year-old. You know what I mean? And it makes him relatable to his players. It makes him relatable. It makes him human. But it's like, dude, eventually you got to outgrow that. Eventually you do. And I think until you do, you probably won't win a Super Bowl.
I just feel like he's got to find his cool. Like, find that middle-aged, salt, pepper cool. Like, don't go to Cabo. Just go get an old-fashioned and go home. Like, just,
thank you.
Like,
you're too old for that, man.
You're too old.
You're too old for that.
It don't look good.
Nah.
So
I bet your dad. Well, I don't know what his dad did. I don't know what his dad did.
Yeah,
I heard his dad was real good friends with Elway. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I and again, like another big thing is kind of like just like this big infatuation with showing worth from a genius standpoint. It's like, bro, let's just move on. Let the boys play. You know,
it doesn't have to be about you, man.
It doesn't.
You could take a back seat with all this talent, right?
Maybe.
Like in Philly, like Sirianni, he gets credit for like going for it on 4th down and stuff like that. But other than that, it's very much the players that get the credit in Philly. Like, he's not doing anything schematically. It's
not his
amazing.
thing. You could tell that it's not his thing. You know what I'm saying? It's their thing. You could tell that. Even with the Chiefs, you could tell that, and that's the way a team should look, you know?
Yeah.
With the Chiefs, you could tell that this is not that's their thing. Andy Reid is coaching, but that's their thing. With us, it just looks like it's a big kumbaya session, and it's like it doesn't.
The way I look at it, it's like
balances.
It's like a virtuoso performance. Every game has to be a virtuoso performance from Kyle. Like, he's the guitar player that like interrupts every freaking song for a guitar solo. It's like, okay, here comes Kyle's 45-second guitar solo. That was great, man. Look at how difficult that was. It's like, that's enough, dude. Like, you just ruined the song. It's not about you every time. It was a nice groove. I was dancing. I can't dance to that freaking electric, guitar solo. Like, so that's Kyle. Yeah, exactly. That's Kyle.
Hear it in 4. Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, man. Like, he's like the dude in the jazz quartet who just has to take over all the time. It's like, no, man, you're overshadowing your come on. Yeah. He's Ron Burgundy with the flute, just like, hold on. I think I need to play the flute right now. This is very important. Yeah. Oh, I wasn't ready for this at all. Exactly. That's Kyle. Anyway, Moonman says, Coach knowledge. What's Mason's role this year? Jordan Mason.
I really believe, and I was thinking about that too, because I was looking at some Ronald Awatt stuff earlier today. I really believe that I feel like we all saw the same thing with CMC this year. We loved what he did for us, but at times, and I need to correct myself because in the past I did say that he needs the love, but at times he was running the ball a little too much. He was being used for carries that, quite frankly, are for Jordan Mason, and they're going to be for.
And it felt like it was Kyle trying to like justify his trade. He's like, oh, I gave up too much for Christian McCaffrey. There's another touchdown. There's another touchdown. Like, okay, great.
And you know, Christian's just demeanor is that, you know, he feels good to just be playing meaningful football. You know what I'm saying? So
he's not going to turn down the ball. He wants the ball. He feels he hasn't been given the accolades he deserves, and he probably hasn't.
This is coming out party for him. Yeah. He's in the rears. Yeah. He's trying to make up for lost time.
He was playing the freaking minor leagues in Carolina. No one knew what he was doing. Now. Hello? Yeah, absolutely.
So when some of those carries that I see, I feel are going to be for Jordan Mason. What did I say last year? Jordan has an issue with blocking out of the backfield. So that's
also, do they throw him the ball very much? Is he a receiver at all? I don't know.
He's necessarily
I don't think so.
Threat as well.
I don't think so.
That shrinks his footprint, if you will, on this offense. And but
he's a great guy when you're winning in the fourth quarter and you know they're going to run anyway. Like, who else would you want to hand the ball to? He's perfect. He is the human victory cigar. Jordan Mason, absolutely. And that's literally what Christian McCaffrey called him, Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
He called him that. Yeah.
Oh, he did? He called him Mariano
Rivera? He literally called him that. I asked him. He said, I call him Mariano Rivera. He's the closer.
It's
a perfect role for him. Yeah.
So I like those carries for him, but I do see for the Niners, because we run the ball so much, we get keyed up a lot on who's playing from personnel, from different teams. So one thing that I hope doesn't happen to him is that we find somebody that can run as hard as him, but they can actually be a passing threat.
Kalen Layburn. It's Layburn. Kalen Layburn.
Yeah, his daddy say call him Layburn. We're going to call him Layburn. So,
Layburn. Sorry about that. We're learning, Kalen. Sorry, bud. But, yeah.
I see other players that can do what he does, but we don't know what Kalen Layburn can do in special teams. And that is something that Jordan Mason does very well. And
I feel like Jordan Mason's, though, his size and power is unique, and there's a role for that. There's a role for that.
There's a role. I mean,
he runs so hard at 223 pounds.
He runs with passion, man. Even when he finishes,
if they cut him, dude, imagine him on the Rams. The Rams could use a guy like him. I
don't want the Rams to have anything.
No.
Like, nothing.
Nothing. Ramelia Sports Report, we're talking to you.
Yeah.
Fish and Chip says, go ahead.
No, I think that Jordan Mason, I mean, I love him to death and he's a fan favorite, but running back is what we do, and you can't fall in love with running backs on this team.
Also, and to your point, he needs to improve whatever he does on passing downs to get on the field more. Otherwise, you're just going to be a closer.
Yeah.
Because if you come on the field and the Niners don't have confidence in you to block or run a route or catch, then you're just telling the defense that it's a run. So you got to have that versatility.
And he also got a lot of reps that weren't his last year because of Elijah being hurt.
True.
So
that being said, with all these drawbacks, he still averaged a cool 6 yards a carry. So I love me some Jordan Mason.
Yeah. Jordan Mason's your guy. You were on him from the beginning.
Well, I mean, he's one of these guys, like undrafted free agent. He shows up to practice every day with his shirt rolled up. It's like, who you think you are, man? Who do you think you are? You think you're Nick? That's what Nick Bosa does. So it's like, okay, you really want everyone to see what great a shape you're in. And it was like, you really are in great shape, man. Like, you have an NFL body, is clear. Like, you're 223 pounds of muscle. How the hell? And you're running really hard in practice. It's like, that probably is going to translate. That's probably going to, and then it did. So I just understand, like, Ty Davis Price didn't have any of that confidence on the practice field. It was very interesting to see an undrafted free agent carry himself like that. He looked like a third-year pro on the field.
Well, I mean, again, another thing, too, is that you get those guys who get rude awakening when you come here about a whole nother level of football. Like, we don't care that you came from LSU. We don't care that you had
that we took you in round 3.
Yeah. Like, we don't care.
He's better than you. He's better than you. You know it. Yeah. I know it. Everyone knows it. Sorry.
He didn't get drafted, and guess what?
Nah.
We're beyond reproach. We don't care if we'll burn the third.
We get praised for doing this shit.
Yeah, we get praised for pulling the plug on motherfuckers. That's what we do. So if you think that us being embarrassed is going to keep you on the field,
nope.
No.
We're Sterling, man. We do this stuff all the time. Fish and Chip says, just let the rookies who show play. Gosh darn it. Okay, we'll tell him. Steven Smith says, hear me out. I'm a huge Kyle fan, but if Trey doesn't start and we end up in the wild card, he'll be coaching at Texas A&M.
There is a scenario where I think that if Kyle just leaned in, he could get out of the Trey thing if he just played him. If you really believe he's not ready, play him.
Show it.
You got to show it.
And that way you don't even have a decision to make. Josh Wyatt says, my point was you can't have it both ways. Brock put up numbers, so either it's Kyle's offense that he handcrafted or Brock played elite. You can't make both arguments without breaking my brain. My thing with Kyle is I feel like he can put quarterbacks in position to put up numbers and win, but it doesn't mean that they're good, and it doesn't mean that they'll stay healthy because that part is on the quarterback. So I don't know. I just feel like all the statistical evidence that says Brock's supposed to be great is like, I'm not moved by it. I still am going to go by my eye test.
And really, let's be real here. The league is going to tell us that Brock is ready. I know that our defense, they feel as though that they are great barometers of talent. And guess what? Who am I to talk? I just sat up here last week and talked about who I think is talented. We all do.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
But at the same time, there is a difference from what I have to say about somebody and what a teammate has to say about somebody, and then what is peer reviewed, what the league has to say about you. Okay? Right. So, and this is something that we do as Niners fans. We try to answer questions that, quite frankly, aren't for us to answer. The league is going to let us know if Brock is the guy, not our defense, not our coaching staff, right? That's why we want Trey to play because, all right, the team says he's not ready. Well, I want the league to say that Trey isn't ready.
Because teams talk themselves into stuff all the time.
All the time.
Corey Soto says,
trusted. They have their own. They have their own motives. They have their own locker room. They have their own people that like to be in lead the discussion. So you got to put them out there to play, right? Damn right. And that's what we got to see.
Corey Soto says prediction: Rams are going to get Caleb Williams or Arizona.
Yeah.
Although they already have Kyler, but it's not like I would rather have Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see him play. I'm not too hot on young quarterbacks anyway. So I mean, it is what it is.
Fair enough. All right, I got to run. It's been a Mondo show.
Great show.
These shows are getting really good. I love these coaches' meetings, man. Great stuff. Thank you, Coach.
Awesome.
Thanks for everyone for watching. Hell yeah. All right, guys. I will see you in a couple hours with Jason